Well, hey, welcome everybody to the September 2024 meeting of GEG Ohio, the Google Educator Group of Ohio. It's been a while since we have been together. We were off all summer, and then normally we start back up in August. But oh my gosh, this year August was a bit of a challenge for all of us schedule-wise. So this is our first meeting back for this school year. So excited to be learning with everybody here. Little bit of housekeeping for those that, I don't know, maybe this is new for you. If so, I'll keep this quick. But this is a monthly meeting other than when we're in the summer, where we take a look at everything new in Google from the last month. We share Google tips and tricks. We answer questions related to using Google tools in schools. And even though this is GEG Ohio, we absolutely welcome anybody from anywhere. As long as you have an interest in using Google in schools, that's what this meeting is for. Even though, yes, some of the content now and then might relate to some Ohio conferences or things like that, I think 99% of what we're going to be looking at is applicable no matter where you are from. Quick introduction. Hi, my name's Eric. I work at the Stark County ESC, specifically for Spark, or the Information Technology Center here. I support about 35 school districts up here in Northeast Ohio on using technology in the classroom. And I am joined by John. John, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, hi everyone. John Mansell-Pladel. I work for the Northern Buckeye Education Council, which is an educational agency located in Northwest Ohio. And I am supervisor of the professional learning group with that organization. We do professional development for about 40 school districts in the northwest corner of the state.
Fantastic. And we have a resource document. My guess is most people have it pulled up by now, but if not, this would be a wonderful time to get this document pulled up. I did drop the link into the chat. I will drop it in there again right now. But if you're watching this later and you want to be able to get to this, maybe you're watching the recording, one of the easiest things you can do then is to go to our GEG Ohio website, which is at bit.ly/GEG Ohio. That will get you to our main GEG Ohio website. From there, there is a link for monthly meetings. If you go to the monthly meetings tab there and scroll on down, you will see the calendar for this year. Here is our meeting today, September 30th, and there is the agenda link. So that will always get you to those, and you can see the tentative dates for the upcoming meetings as well. Always double check them because those can move around, but that will get you to that agenda document if you're not there already. Now, this document is editable, so please add content to this. It is editable for anybody who is a member of GEG Ohio. If you're not a member, my guess is you'll have comment rights. So you can leave comments on the document, but for those that are a member of the group, you can edit it directly. So please do. There's a couple of spots I would say that would make the most sense. For example, upcoming events. If you're aware of a conference or a webinar series or something that people could take advantage of, upcoming events, add that to that section. That would be great. I'd say another really good spot to drop things in would be down in the show and tell. In the show and tell, we just share odds and ends, and there is a community show and tell section. We've already got a couple of things that have been added in there from the community. You can contribute to that. If you've got a really cool resource or a neat blog post or a new tool you've come across, a neat extension, really anything that you want to share, that's a catch-all for that. And then the third place would be the questions and answers section. If you've got a question, we've got several that have come in, please feel free to add additional questions here. And if you've got something to contribute to the answers, do that as well. So that would be wonderful. At the same time, if you want to drop things into the YouTube chat, that's great. John and I are going to do our best to keep an eye on that as well. All right, excellent. Well, let's go ahead and get on into this. So we've covered the welcome and introductions. Now today we do have some other co-hosts who were not able to be with us, but I always want to give a shout out to Stephanie, Sarah, and Denny. Thank you so much for all the help, whether it's here in the meetings or behind the scenes. But thanks to John for being able to be with me here today. Next up on page 2 of the document, under important links, we like to encourage you to sign in for these meetings so that you can get a certificate of attendance. There is a Google form here linked in. Very simple. Just fill in your details, your contact information, just a couple questions about, if this is your first meeting or not. And that's it. Sometime between now and the next meeting, I will run Autocrat and generate a certificate of attendance for you for attending this meeting. Now, if you watched it later, if you watched the recording, that's okay. No worries. You can still fill that out as well. Excellent. Next up, I want to remind you that in between our meetings, we do have a Google group, an email group you can join. Here are the directions here to join that group. Last time I checked, we had I think there's like over 1,600 and some members. It's a great group. So if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you're looking for help with something, if you're looking to connect with other people who share your interest in technology in schools and you haven't joined yet, please do join the GEG Ohio email group there. That way, in between the meetings, we can keep the conversations going. Next up, we have a section here on upcoming events. This is probably the most Ohio-specific part of this particular meeting here. And so with that, here, I'm going to turn off our banner. I don't think I probably need the banner on now. I think you guys probably have seen that up on the screen long enough there. I'll turn that off. That looks good. All right. Let's go ahead and here we go. Awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at our upcoming events here. So these are the ones that are probably the most Ohio specific of anything we're going to see in the meeting here today. We do have several coming up here in the next few months. So for example, in October, we've got a few. The Eastlake North High School is going to be hosting an AI conference. There's a link to that website where you can get all the details on that. Just a few days later, October 20th through 22nd, we have the EdTech Leaders Alliance Conference, which has gone through a lot of different names. I still call it the Learn 21 Conference. John, do you still think of it that way? Does that still hold true for you, or have you been able to get your brain wrapped around the new name of it yet?
Well, yeah, it's because the Learn 21 is so involved in a lot of other initiatives. It seemed to make sense for them to kind of rebrand that conference, and so yeah, I know it by both names.
Yeah, exactly. So I will be presenting at that one. John, are you going to be joining us for that conference?
I am not. I am. That's a bad. I'm actually in a theater production right now, and
Awesome.
we're going to be getting close to the end at that point. So
That's
I'm going to
great.
miss both the iTip and Learn 21 conferences this
my.
year. But I will be at OETC,
Excellent.
and I just put in a proposal for McCall, which is
Excellent.
in March.
Excellent.
I will add it to the agenda.
Please do. Because with McCall being so close to Ohio, now that's in Michigan. This year,
Detroit
is it
this year
back
too.
in Detroit? Yeah, it
Yeah.
jumps back and forth between Grand Rapids and Detroit. So especially in Detroit, not that far away. A lot of folks, especially those in the northwest corner of the state, can certainly pop up there pretty easily. But hopefully some of you will be attending the EdTech Leaders Alliance Conference down in Columbus. That's October 20th, 21st, 22nd. I will be presenting several sessions on the 22nd. That's the particular day that I'm going to be down there presenting. And then the following week, the 27th through the 29th, we've got the iTip Ohio Google Summit, and I'll be presenting a bunch of sessions there as well. So I'm excited to see folks. I hope lots of people are able to attend those. And if so, please say hi and let's connect while we're at those. And of course, always got to give a shout out to OETC. So the Ohio Educational Technology Conference in February, as usual, the 11th through the 13th. Looking forward to that conference as well. So if you got anything to add to it, please do. We'd love for folks to add other training opportunities here, but those are some that are coming up here pretty quick. All right. Well, let's talk about the main course of our content here, which is what's new in Google for Education. So with Google, it is as we've said many times, a moving target. There is always new features coming out, new updates, and we try our best. We try our best to keep an eye on that. And so over the last several months, because it's been since the end of May that we had a meeting, so basically June, July, August, and September. It's been 4 months since we had a meeting. We've been doing our best to keep an eye on anything new that came out. Now, clearly, we are not going to cover all of the new things. As you can see, there's just too many. There are so many new things that have come out in the last 4 months. So what I did was I went through and I used bolding to kind of bold any of the dates for the ones that I thought were probably, in my opinion, the most important. So those are the ones I'm going to be speaking about here. And John, at any point, please feel free to jump in and add your thoughts on all of these. I know John's also monitoring the chat, and that is incredibly helpful. If I skip something where you're like, hey, I was actually really interested in something, let us know. Drop a comment into the document or put something in the YouTube chat. I'm happy to talk about any of these. I had to pick and choose. I had to try to decide. So that's why the ones that are selected are selected. There were some ones that I thought were some of the more important ones. Do note we do have a key that we use, some emojis here to help identify if things are available for all users, because that's not always the case. Google has 4 different tiers from the free version up to Plus, and now they've got the Gemini add-on as well. And so as you look at these, if you see a whole bunch of icons, that's always encouraging. That means, oh yeah, it's from fundamentals all the way up to Plus. There's going to be somewhere that's not the case. It might just be teaching and learning and Plus, but that's what those icons are there to help indicate. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and time to buckle in because we got a lot of updates ahead of us. Let's dive in and start seeing what we've got here. All right, so let's begin with June. What came out in June? So first up here, we did have a nice update to Google Sheets, and this was a blog post talking about something called conditional notifications. Now, what that is this. You're probably familiar with in Google Sheets, and I'll just pull over a sample Google Sheet here. You're probably familiar that, and this is not real data. This is just pretend students and grades. I'm not actually putting real data on the screen here, but you're probably familiar with in Google Sheets how you can set up notifications, where if I were to go into my tools section and I go to notifications, you probably were familiar with being able to come in and say, hey, anytime, somebody makes a change to this, email me and let me know there's been a change. So we've had that for a long time. That's not what this is. This is something new. So this is conditional notifications. And the idea is, well, what if it's not that somebody came in and typed in something new or deleted something or added a new row? What if a value changed? What if there was, like, let's say this average here, and let's say I come in and I add score number 7, a whole new group of student scores, and of course that affects their overall average. What if I wanted to get notified anytime, let's say, a student's grade dropped below a 70? Well, we can now set up conditional notifications that will send out an email and say, hey, this cell in this sheet has fallen above this, below this, or whatever the case might be, and we're going to notify you of that. It's really easy to do. Basically, I'm going to come here and select this average column, and if I go up to my tools, I'm going to click on conditional notifications. That's going to pop up a little panel here on the side where I can add a rule to describe when I want to get notified. So if I click add rule, I can say, okay, I could give it a name. For this example, I'll just leave it as it is, but I certainly could give it a name. And I could say, okay, this column H, here's a condition. Let's add a condition. When anything in this column is, above, below, if it contains certain text, in this case, I'd want to say if it is going to be, let's say, less than let's say we're saying less than 70. That's going to be our cutoff point. If there's a score in that column that falls below a 70, that's when I want to get notified. And at that point, you can basically say, okay, we're going to send out an email notification. And here you can put in up to 10 email recipients as to who is going to get notified of that. Now, you can type them in manually, or you can pull them from a column that has those in there. So it doesn't have to be just you. It could be you and several other people who need to be made aware of this particular change. And that's it. Once you save that, anytime now that there is and I'll put in my email and actually set that up. But if I were to do that and save that now, anytime that column, a value falls below 70, I'll get an email letting me know about that. I'm going to cancel that though for now. So I think there's a lot of possible uses for this. It doesn't have to be that the value falls below an amount. It could be that something gets checked or unchecked. It could be that a due date arrives. Maybe you've got a column in here of when something is due by, and then there's a conditional formatting or conditional notification that says, okay, if we're past that date, then send out a notification. So just a really neat option to have more flexibility with getting notified in Google Sheets. So just wanted to give a heads up about that one there.
Eric, does that work if you have a Google form that is updating the Google Sheet? So you're using an edit link for a Google form?
Yeah, because what's going to happen is what you would do is you would set up the rule to look at the entire column.
Gotcha.
So as new data is coming into here, it's going to realize there's new data coming in because when I came here and I say conditional notifications, I can say I want it to be the entire column, not just a specific, range in there, but as new form values come in, it's going to be able to catch the new data as well. Yeah, good stuff. Excellent. All right. Well, let's keep on going. And John, do exactly that. And everybody else do the same. I'm going to move kind of quick through these just because there's so much stuff that happened in the last 4 months. But I'm going to leave it up to you to slow me down. I'm going to leave it up to you to ask the questions and say, well, what about this? All right. So let's keep going. What's up next? NotebookLM. Okay. Now, NotebookLM actually shows up about 5 or 6 times here in the document. So I'm going to do all of these at once. So this particular entry about NotebookLM is just one occurrence here. Let's say if I go to the find replace, you'll see there's quite a few. So that's the first entry there. And then we've got, a second one further down, and a third one, and a fourth one, and a fifth. Well, I guess that fifth one is in the show and tell. So there's at least 4 entries here where NotebookLM shows up. I'm just going to lump them all together and cover them all at once. So NotebookLM is an awesome tool that Google put out months and months and months ago. That's an AI-powered tool that allows you to upload files to a notebook and then have a conversation with Google's AI about the files you uploaded. I'm going to go ahead and pull it onto the screen here. So here I'm pulling over my personal account where I've been playing around with this a little bit more. But I want to show you some of the new things that they've added into this. And I know I've shared about this tool in the past, but there's so many cool new updates they've added in. So here's the basic idea. What you would do is you would go to NotebookLM, which again, totally free, no cost. This one doesn't even have a paid option, even if you wanted to. It's just free. So if I come in here and say, hey, let's get a new notebook. What it does is it allows you to add up to 50 sources. Now, what can the sources be? They can be PDFs. They can be text files. They can be audio files like MP3s. They can be Google Docs, Google Slideshows. They can be websites. They can be YouTube video links. They can just be copied and pasted text. The point is you can put as much content into this notebook as you want, up to 50 separate files of all these different formats. Now, a lot of times when Google talks about this, they say, think about it like being a student. Think about, saying, okay, I'm going to put all of my notes from the entire semester into this. I'm going to put in all of the articles that we're supposed to read. I'm going to put in, PDFs that my teacher has given me related to the content. I'm going to put in slideshows that my teacher has shared with me. The point is, you can put as much content in here as you want. And then once you've done that, you can now start having conversations with the AI about the content. So as a quick example, this is not terribly exciting at all, but here's one I was playing around with where I added 4 articles, and the topic is about sargassum seaweed. I don't know if that's something you're familiar with, but I'm thinking, yeah, maybe this is like a science class, and we're learning about this. Sargassum is like this seaweed that's, I guess it's a real problem for people down in like Florida because it like washes up on the shore and it makes a big mess and all that kind of stuff. Well, I went ahead and I uploaded 1, 2, 3, 4 resources. Now remember, I can upload up to 50, so I could have way more. I just put 4 resources in here. Well, now that I put all of those in there, I can come down here and I can just ask questions. I can ask questions about that, or I can click on this thing called the notebook guide. And at that point, I can do all kinds of things. I can say, hey, create a study guide based off of this, or give me an FAQ or a timeline, or I could just say, quiz me on this information. And so basically the student can fill, or anybody, you can do this as well. You can put all the documents, all the files you want in there, and then start interacting with the AI, asking it to create content for you. So like if I said, hey, create a study guide for me, it's going to read through all of these articles here, and then it's going to generate a study guide. Or here's the really cool thing is audio overview. So this got added in just recently. So I'm going to click load so that it loads it back up. This is a newer feature that I think has a lot of prompts. So there's our study guide. Our study guide just popped up there, which it's back here as well. We'll go ahead and close out of that. But there's our study guide that we just asked it to create. So this part here, the audio overview, is really clever. So basically what's going to happen is Google's AI is going to take all the content you've loaded up here, and it's going to make a podcast style audio overview of the content. And it's going to use 2 different voices, a male voice and a female voice, having a conversation about all the things you just uploaded. And so I'm going to play a clip of it for you so you can kind of hear what it sounds like. But the idea is, if there's a student who might learn better by just getting a simple audio overview of content that they need to be studying, maybe that's going to help crystallize it for them a little bit better. So let me go ahead and I'll hit play here. Again, I gave it 4 articles about sargassum and I told it to generate an audio overview. Let's hit play here. Oop, make sure that's coming through. Okay, hold on a second. John, I might need a thumbs up from you once I start this back up to make sure. I believe I shared my audio, but I want to make sure. So here we go.
I could hear it before.
You said you could hear it before, but you can't hear it now? Okay, hang on a second. Let me double check my settings here, make sure. I believe I have in my screen share, I believe I included the audio, but you said you heard it at once, but now you don't. Here, let me try that again. Nope. So you're saying, no, that's not coming through? Okay, let me do this. Let me stop my screen share and I'll share it again. So let me just reshare my screen. Sorry about that, guys. Apologies there. Let me reshare my screen and I will once again choose to share the system audio. And let's see if it comes through better this time. Let's try it again.
That's right. You've all been seeing the headlines.
Yep.
Giant doomed vacation.
We'll let that play.
Some are even talking about flesh-eating bacteria. So today we are diving deep, all of us together, into this sargassum surge. And let me tell you, you guys sent in some seriously fascinating stuff, articles, firsthand accounts. We've even got info on a nonprofit that's taking this whole seaweed situation head on. So consider this your official buckle up warning. We're cutting through the hype, separating facts.
Now I'll jump ahead to a few other spots just so you can kind of hear some of the interaction here.
And sea turtles, they love it. It's like a giant floating city out there, just bustling with activity. And here's something else. They can even act.
Someone dumped a whole bunch of miracle grow in the ocean. Then there's upwelling, where deeper water that's full of nutrients gets pulled to even huge ships. Now, realistically, it's super unlikely that a ship would actually get trapped in sargassum these days. And again, it's just these 2 people going back and forth discussing all that information. So I think there's a lot of promise here.
I like podcasts a lot myself. I find myself really being able to learn on and process a lot through things that are recorded, things that are audio, and so for me, I see this as a real good match for the way I like to consume information. I could understand somebody else might not. It might not be their way of learning, but what a neat option to be able to either give it a single article and say, hey, just help me understand this article, or give it 50 sources and allow it to compare and contrast and summarize all of that information in an easy to listen to manner. So I would absolutely encourage folks to try that out. If you haven't, it is at notebooklm.google.com. Now, if you're using a school account, it does need to be turned on. So if you don't have that turned on, it is just a switch to flip in the admin console. At the moment, I'm using my personal account just because that's where I've been playing with it, but we do have it turned on our school account here as well. I believe one of the articles that I've got linked in here in the agenda does mention that NotebookLM does show up as an option in the admin console. Let me find that for you guys here. There
And
it is.
you
So
did
down,
have a question in the chat about that, so that was
perfect, excellent,
well timed for that.
So just recently they mentioned in this blog post that it is now available as an additional service. So if you go into your admin console and you go to the apps section, then you go to the additional Google tools, you can flip the switch in there to turn on NotebookLM for your school as well.
And that's one of the other things that may have changed for some people over the summer, certainly last year, was some of the apps that we as teachers have been using in the classroom now have been put into that category, and they will have to enable special access. I was trying to get for some 7th graders access to code.org, which used to work, and then all of a sudden it didn't work. So we had to go and go into the admin console and actually enable some specific apps. So if something is not working for you as you returned to school, then there's probably a good reason for that, and talk to your tech support person and get them to make some adjustments for you in the admin console.
Excellent. Very, very good point. And that's going to be true with probably everything we mentioned here today. Any of these tools can be turned on, they can be turned off. But even if it was something that you were maybe beta testing, now that it's come out of beta, it might need to be.
And maybe just one thing I wanted to quickly add. I don't know if you're going to talk about it later, Eric, but I'll just mention it now. For our Ohio listeners and watchers, the Senate Bill 29 goes into effect on October the 24th, and that is to do with student data privacy. And so if you are advocating to use a specific tool with your students, now by law, there has to be student data privacy due diligence has to be done, and you need to know that agreements are in place for those third-party apps before you use them with your students.
That is correct. I know we're doing work on that through our educational service center as well, helping to support our local schools. I did see somebody had a question. They asked, is this age restricted? And yes, as you can see here, we're talking users 18 and above for the use of NotebookLM. So this might not be something that our students themselves would be using, but we as teachers could generate content for the students. Now, having said that, if they're using a personal Gmail account, I believe that would probably be different. I'd have to double check to see, but Google's stance has been if you're old enough to have a Gmail account, you're old enough to use their AI tools. So that would probably put it at a 13 and above level for a personal Gmail account. But through the school accounts, 18 and above. But that's been Google's approach so far. That's the same thing with all of their AI tools. You can use Gemini as a 13-year-old on a personal account, but not on a school account yet. Not that they're not going to do it. I think they eventually will. But for right now, they're keeping all their school users being 18 and above for their AI tools. All right. Good stuff. Well, let's keep on going because, like I said, we got a lot to a lot to look at here. So I'm going to probably have to move a little bit quicker so we can hit all of these things, and then we can go deeper into the ones you guys are interested in. Next up, some Google Classroom things. If you have been keeping an eye on Read Along for a while, it is now officially out again. Teaching and Learning and Education Plus. So you do have to have those paid tiers. But basically now in Google Classroom, you can assign books to students, and the students can then read the book. And while they read it, the AI listens to them reading the book, and it measures them on their speed, their accuracy, et cetera, and it collects all of that information together for you. Just to show you really quick what that looks like, this is just a demo class here. If I were to go in and say I wanted to create an assignment, I can now click on Read Along here in the assignment area. And at that point, I can look through their collection of books. I think they've got about 800, it says 809 books at the moment. I can narrow this down if I want to pick the particular Lexile level or the grade, whatever the case might be. And then I could come in and say, okay, that looks great. Let's do this book about giraffes, and then I could, choose the book. At that point, I can test it out myself, or I can go ahead and attach it for my students. If I attach it for the students, it is now creating an assignment where they're to read that particular book. I can now push that out and assign it. I believe I have a demo student account floating around here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Here's my test user. So here's my test user. And so now I can go, oh, look at that. I've got this, giraffes assignment that has been given to me. I can pop on in, and basically it's going to ask me to read the story. I will not actually read the whole story, just showing you what that looks like on the student's end there. But it'll load up the story, and then it'll ask me to read each page. And as it goes through, then it's going to monitor how well I am reading the information. Well, usually it loads up a lot quicker than that. Not sure why it's taking a moment here. Let's try that one more time. Not sure why that was giving me such a hard time. Let's try that one more time. See if there it is. Okay, there we go.
Let's read. Giraffes.
Giraffes have necks.
Excellent. You are reading really well.
Giraffes have spots.
Great reading. That was fast.
All right, you get the idea. I won't actually go through and do all of that. I just wanted to show you what that looked like there. Now, what it looks like for you as the teacher then is, I did one earlier about a farm, just testing it out. You can go in later then, and you can see the information as to how the students did in their reading. So it'll show you their accuracy, and over time, I have one data point here, so it's not going to look too great here, but over time, you would see a lot more data getting collected on your students. Some of the books have questions with them as well, so you can also monitor their understanding of the information. So anyway, neat option. If you have the Teaching and Learning or the Education Plus tier, that is included in there. All right, let's keep on going. Let's see, next up. Well, we're still on Classroom, so I might as well have just stayed there. Google Classroom now has added an extra feature to their interactive YouTube assignments, and that is the ability to use AI to generate questions for your YouTube assignments. So let me just pull that right back over. I should have just left it up there. So basically, again, and this one is Teaching and Learning as well, or Education Plus. So this one does require the paid tiers there. The idea behind this is if I go to create an assignment and I come down here and say, I want to add a YouTube video to my assignment, I could say, hey, let's find a YouTube video about food webs. And so I could search for a YouTube video about food webs, grab this YouTube video here, and then instead of just adding it to the assignment like we used to do, I can add questions to it. So kind of like Edpuzzle does. Well, that's not new. None of that's new. We've actually had this for a while. The new part is when I go to add questions now, AI is going to scan through the video, pulling out the transcript, and it's going to automatically create questions for me. Now, I don't have to use these questions. I can go in and I can delete them. I can add my own, but it gives me a starting point. And so now I've already got 6 questions that have been added into the video here. If I'm happy with them, great. That can give me a nice quick start. If not, I can, of course, modify those. And at this point, then, I would push this out to my students. They would watch the video. And as they watch the video, it's going to pause to ask them questions all throughout the video. And of course, it will collect all that data for me there as well. I won't actually do that right now, but you get the idea. All right, good stuff. Let's keep on going. Up next, let's see. Just some Gemini things. This is how Google is starting to roll out Gemini in the side panel of a lot of different Google products. So Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Slides. Heads up, this does require that you have the Gemini extra license that goes along with that. That's why you'll see the little robot next to each of these. So it doesn't matter if you've got fundamentals or teaching and learning or whatever. This is separate from that. Anything with the little robot here, that indicates the Gemini add-on. Now, I don't have the Gemini add-on on my work account, but I do have access to it on my personal account. So I am going to pull that over really quick just to show you what we mean by that. So for example, let's say I had this document here. This is a pretend student essay on the Boston Tea Party. Well, what I can do is I can see that I've got a little Gemini icon up in the top corner here. I can click on that and that side panel pops up. Basically, that's the idea, is they have now begun to roll out this side panel in Docs, Sheets, Slides, all kinds of things. And basically now you can just have a conversation with Gemini about this particular document. So I could come over here and I could say something like, maybe provide feedback on how to improve this essay. And there we go. It's now going to read the essay and generate some feedback over here, which of course I could copy and paste if I wanted to use it or modify it. But basically, it's just having Gemini inside of your tools rather than going out to it. Now, if you don't have the paid version so that you're not able to get those extra features there, sure, you could still open up Gemini on its own. I could copy and paste this into Gemini and say, hey, can you give me feedback on this? And then I could bring it back. But that is the idea, is that with the paid version, you do have a Gemini panel that is showing up inside of a lot of these different tools. So it's not just Docs, it's Slides, it's Sheets, it's Forms, it's Gmail, it's Drive, all of those different tools that's starting to roll out. All right, good stuff. Well, that was June. So let's hit some July stuff here real quick and see where we're at here with July. All right. So in July, this was probably the thing that made me the most sad was July 12th. Google announced that they were shutting down LaCros. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm getting a little nerdy on you here. So just be aware, heads up, this is a little bit more nerdy here. But LaCros is Linux and Chrome OS. That's what it stands for. So basically, it's the ability to run a full Linux operating system browser on a Chromebook. And basically the idea behind this, they had been playing around with this for years and years and years, was to try to separate the Chrome browser from the Chromebook operating system so that basically you could have the Chromebook updating separately than the browser. Now, that all sounds kind of nerdy and boring. Like, well, why would anybody care about that? Why is that even important? I cared because it did one thing for me. There was one thing it did that meant the world to me. It meant I was able to have multiple profiles on a Chromebook. Now, you probably know what I mean when I talk about profiles, but if not, here I am on a Windows computer. I'm sitting on a Windows device right now. If I go up to the top of my browser and I click on my little avatar up here, you can see I have multiple profiles. This is my personal account. This is my trainer account. This is a test account. I can have all, that's how every time I keep saying, oh, I'm going to drag over something from, my personal account. That's why I can do that, because I can have multiple profiles set up inside of Chrome so that each one is its own unique profile. They don't share passwords. They don't share bookmarks. They don't share extensions. They are unique individual profiles. Well, Chromebooks never could do that, because when you log into a Chromebook, that's it. You're logged in as you. Now, yeah, you could come up here and you could go to like your Google Drive and you could say you want to add other accounts into this same profile, but then you've got multiple accounts inside the same profile. And then that can be frustrating because you go to click a link and it doesn't know which profile should open a document. And you get these errors saying, sorry, you don't have permission to access this. And you're like, I grabbed the wrong profile again, and also again, you're sharing passwords between all the accounts and you have to have the same bookmarks and the same extensions, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's what LaCros fixed. It allowed me to separate the two. And so that's what I was using for about the last year. And it was wonderful. On my Chromebook, I was able to have multiple profiles. Well, they said they were shutting it down. And that broke my heart. Like, I was like, no, this is so, because now, when I do a training, I want to have multiple profiles up because I might have, this profile is a teacher and this profile is a student. And I want to show you what it looks like from a teacher point of view. Now let's jump over to being a student. That is so valuable to me. And especially since I help support so many school districts, I typically have profiles for the different schools to support them. Well, here's the good news. Okay, just so you know, if this means something to you before you get sad like I got, a little bit further down, if we just scroll down a little bit further, on July 31st, John Sowash was kind enough to talk about a way to get around this. And so here is a blog post from a few weeks later saying, John was feeling the same thing. No, don't take away our profiles. We need access to these. Well, basically what he found out is what we can do to get around it is to install the Linux version of the Chrome browser on the Chromebook. Now that is something that I've been doing as well. You can turn Linux on your Chromebook. So you can turn that on. I've done that over the last few years to install just a few extra tools that I might need. Well, the suggestion was, hey, there's a version of Chrome that runs on Linux, and you could install that on the Chromebook. And so that's what I did, and it works. So now on my Chromebook, I can open up not the regular, I can if I want, but I don't have to open up the regular Chrome browser on the Chromebook. I can open up the Linux version of the Chrome browser, and the Linux version supports multiple profiles. Now, I know some of you are listening saying, Eric, this means nothing to me. I really don't care. But if we've got some nerdy folks that are trying to get the most they can out of their Chromebook, and if this announcement broke your heart like it broke mine, I just want to let you know, I've been doing this now since the end of July when John posted this, and it really does work well. So I now have multiple profiles once again. Yeah, there's a couple of little oddities about it, but it's nothing that is going to prevent me from being able to get stuff done that I need to get done. Maybe at some point we can do a deeper dive into the little things I've had to tweak and change because of it. But that really did help me out a lot. And if anybody wants to see it, I do have my Chromebook next to me. I can pull it over through a remote connection, and I can show you what it looks like if you want to see it. But I will not belabor the point right now, because my guess is some folks might not care. But for those that do, if you want to see more, I'm happy to show you more details on how this works for me. But it's been a lifesaver. So cool stuff. All right. Let's keep on going. What's up next? Here we go. Another classroom thing. This one is for Education Plus, though, again, so be aware of that. Classroom has added a new option for guardians to be able to see more content than they had been able to in the past. So let me explain this. So here's Classroom once again. Let's bring Classroom back over. So you're probably familiar when you go to the People tab in Classroom that you have the option to add guardians. That is not new. We have had that since Classroom came out. So that's nothing new. That's how it's been. So for example, I put myself in as a guardian for test user 1 as an example. Now, all that did when you added guardians was it meant those people were allowed to opt in to a weekly email that they would get that would say, hey, here's how your student is doing. And it would give some, basic things like, here's what's coming up due. Here's, what we covered this week. It's just, kind of a quick update on how the child is doing in the class. But that was it. It didn't actually allow the parent or guardian to see the files. Like they couldn't look at the slideshows or, read the PDFs or read the documents that the teacher had pushed out. They just knew, oh, you're covering such and such a topic, such and such thing is coming up due, that kind of thing. Well, now there's this new option called Share with Guardians. And so what that means is if I have set up Guardians, I can now click Share with Guardians, and it gives me a special link. I can now copy this special link, and I can send that link out to the parents. I can say, hey parents, if you want to dig a little deeper into Classroom, if you don't want to just get an email, now here's a link. You can click this link, and this link will let you see more details about what's going on in our class. So let me pull over my personal account, which is, remember, again, I have pretended that I am a guardian for test user 1. So if I bring up my personal account and I put that link in, this is what a parent is going to see. Now, they are not going to see any students' grades. They're not going to see anybody else in the class. Nothing like that is happening. But what they can do is they can go in and say, oh, you've got this photosynthesis project coming up. And they can actually see what the files are. Oh, you need to watch this video. You need to, go to this website. If there's PDFs, if there's, documents, anything that's been attached, the parent can now pull up that same content. Again, they are not seeing their students' work. They're not seeing like their grades. They're definitely not seeing any other students in the class, but they are getting more details than they would have gotten otherwise by being able to browse the actual content of the assignments. So that is a neat option to give parents and guardians a little bit more insight into what is going on in your class. All righty. Next up, automatically generate captions for videos in Google Drive. This is a nice one. If you have taken advantage of captions in YouTube to help support your learners, and just for, students who might have a difficult time hearing, there's been a lot of studies that show that anybody can benefit from captions. I use captions all the time. If I'm watching a TV show, I turn the captions on because even though I can hear it fine, I miss things. There's stuff I don't quite catch. Well, the same thing's true for our students. Being able to have captions playing along with the video can help all of our students to catch more information that they might have missed otherwise. Well, in the past, the only easy way to do this was through YouTube. You could take your video, you could upload it to YouTube, and YouTube would caption it. Well, now Google Drive will caption videos too. So if you upload a video to Google Drive, and I think I've got an example here. Let me pull over my Google Drive. Here's a bunch of videos. So here is this video, just a little thing I did on glaciers. I was testing out something. If I come in here and open up this video, and I'm going to mute it so I'm not talking over myself. I can click on the captions button, and now you'll see the video in Drive is now getting closed captioning in there. So that's just a really nice feature. That's a cool thing. So now if you want to, you don't have to upload videos to YouTube. You can upload them to your Google Drive as well and use the new closed captioning feature in there. Now, this should be on by default heads up, your admins can turn it off, but it should be on by default. All right, good stuff. Let's keep on going. Anything else in July? I think that was it. We did a whole month there. that was it for July. John, let me pause before I go into August. Did you see questions, comments, things that we might need to address before we head into August?
There were several people that were also lamenting the loss of LaCros, and I think somebody did ask if NotebookLM if you needed to have the Gemini piece for that, and I responded in the chat that no, NotebookLM works just in a regular Google account, or if you have it turned on in your domain for people under 18.
Correct. Yeah. That's one of the really nice things about NotebookLM. I mean, it's free. It's just completely free. There's not even an option to pay for a better version of it. It's free. Anybody can use it. Again, personal account or school account, as long as you're the appropriate age and above. Yeah. Love it. All right. Well, let's head into August and let's see what made the cut for August. Looks like I picked out 4 or 5 things. The first thing that I picked out, providing student engagement for Google Drive file attachments in Classroom. Again, this is a Google Plus or an Education Plus feature, unfortunately. But basically what this is talking about is when you go in to take a look at your students who have turned in their work now, or haven't turned it in, and they have or haven't turned it in. Now it's going to give you some more information about how recently they have been working on it. It'll actually tell you, hey, they edited this, an hour ago or whatever the case might be. So if I pull over that classroom we've been playing around in this whole time, and if I come in and I take a look at that photosynthesis project, for example, nobody's turned anything in yet. But test user 1 was editing this just a little over 3 hours ago. And so now, in addition to just, have they turned it in or not, we're now getting these indications as to when the student last worked on this. You can also say, just show me the students who have no edits. These are the students who have not even started. Nothing's been done yet. So that can give you a little bit more insight into that. So that's a nice feature for Classroom. Next up. Gemini makes your mobile device a powerful AI assistant. All right, so let's talk about this one. So this is Google Gemini, which is, Google's version of like ChatGPT. And yes, Gemini has a web version. You can just go to gemini.google.com and you can interact with the web version of Gemini. Well, this is the mobile version. So this is the app version of it. They have added a new feature to that. And what it is the ability to just talk to the Gemini AI as if it was a person and have it just have a conversation with you. Now, ChatGPT has recently released something very similar to this with their advanced voice mode, but this is Google's version of that. So I'm going to demonstrate this for you. I'm going to pull up my phone here in a second, but this is explaining how basically, this is now rolling out to the mobile version of Gemini. So let's just take it for a spin and see what this looks like. So let me wake up my phone here. Then I'm going to put my phone up on the screen. Give me just a second to get this back up. I use a tool called Visor that allows me to put my my phone on the screen. Got to get it plugged in. Give me a second here. Sorry about that. Here we go. Now it should be plugged in. Awesome. Let me go ahead and pull that over to still connecting. And here we go. All right. There we go. All right. so there is my phone and there is Gemini that I pulled up. And basically what I can do on the Gemini app is I can click the button down here at the bottom. This is the voice mode. You can also pick from different voices. So I think if I go, let me see if I remember where I choose. I think if I go up to my icon and I go to my settings and I go to voices.
I'm ready to be your voice.
Here, I'll turn it up.
Like what you hear, choose me to start talking.
And so I can go through the different voices.
Feel free to keep exploring until you find the perfect voice.
You can always change voices later. I'll be here whenever you're ready to talk.
All right. So there's
Bill,
like,
I'm ready to be your voice. If you like what you hear,
so I believe there's like 10 different voices you can pick from. So let's just go ahead and take it for a spin. Let's try that out. I'll click on that button and I'll talk to it. Hey, can you explain the difference between a simile and a metaphor?
sure thing. Similes and metaphors are both ways of comparing things, but they're a little different. A simile uses the words like or as to make the comparison. For example, you could say, her hair is like a waterfall. A metaphor makes a more direct comparison without using those words. You could say something like, her hair is a waterfall.
That's awesome. I'm teaching some students who really are excited about animals. Can you give me some examples that involve animals?
Absolutely. Here's a simile example. That cat is as sneaky as a fox. And here's a metaphor. My dog is a furry teddy bear. Would you like a few more examples?
Nope, that's great. Thanks.
Anytime. Let me know if you need anything else.
All right, there we go. So hopefully that came through okay. I don't know how easy it was to necessarily hear all of that, but that's the idea. Is we're seeing this become more common, whether it's with ChatGPT. They're doing a similar thing, and with Google, they have also rolled this out. What I'm excited about trying out with this is I do some activities where we talk about having the AI pretend to be like, Abraham Lincoln, or, a character from a book. And, you do a class interview. I think it would be neat to start seeing how with both Gemini and ChatGPT, we could use these voice modes to bring that a little bit more to life. So something that I plan on testing out a little bit more. All right. What else from August? My goodness. Classroom got so many updates. Here's another one. Student groups in Classroom. So let's take a quick look at that. Well, this is something that people have been asking for so long, that when you are in Classroom and you want to give an assignment. So if I'm coming here and say, hey, let's create a new assignment. In the past, you've had the ability to go in and say, I want to push this out to all of my students, or you could individually check, just these 3 students, or just these 5 students, or whatever. Well, people have been saying, is there any way possible that we could create groups that we could save and not have to recheck the same students every time we do that over and over and over again? And so now we do have that option. So under the People tab, there's now a Groups section next to Students, and you can create groups. Like I made a blue group and a red group. And, so there's my students in each of those groups there. All I have to do is hit Create Group, just give it, a name, whatever we want to call that group, and then select the students that belong in that group, hit Create, and you can notice a student can be in more than one group. You could have a student showing up in multiple groups. The point is, now when I go to create an assignment or really do anything, I have the option to not just choose the students I want to send it to, but just say, you know what, this is for the blue group. And now I could select the blue group, and it's just going to be those 3 students. That particular update looks like that is available for Teaching and Learning and Plus, but a really nice, much needed update. Let's see. The next thing we have here, a couple of Gemini things. So 2 Gemini things to round out August. So the first one is something called Custom Gems. Now, this is, again, it's one of the ones with the robot icon. So heads up, this one does require that you have the paid Gemini add-on. I can show it to you because I've got that on my personal account, but just want to give you a little heads up about what a custom gem is. So let me go ahead and pull over. Let me grab my Gemini from my personal account, pull that over.
Eric, a question before we get too far away from Google Classroom.
Oh, yes, please.
For groups, Lancy asks, can students see what group they are in?
Good question. I don't believe so. We should do a little poke and a stick at that and dig into that. I remember that question coming up in the past. Somebody had asked that during one of their Google updates that they had done. And I believe, no, it's just like when I, create an assignment and I only pick 5 students to send it out to, they don't, it doesn't show them that, oh, you are one of only 5 who got this assignment. So I don't think that's the case. Yeah.
That's good. All right. I'm looking forward to learning more about gems.
Yeah. So with gems, here's the idea. If you're familiar with ChatGPT, you're probably familiar with the ability to create a custom GPT. And this is Google's version of that. They're just calling it a gem. So down here in the bottom corner, I've got a gem manager, and that gem manager has some pre-created ones that I can pick from, like a writing editor, a brainstormer, a career guide, a learning coach, or I can build my own. I can click new gem, and then I can just describe what I want this custom GPT to do. I did a couple of these ahead of time. Like I made one called a debate coach. And so basically, here I'll go in and actually show you what it looks like before I'll do the edit so you can see what it looks like. So basically I gave it a name and then I gave it instructions. And so here are the instructions for this custom AI chatbot, basically. What we're saying is, okay, you're going to engage in a debate with the students in the class. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to ask what the topic is, what position you should take, what's the age range for the students. And then, here's how the debate's going to run. Make sure you keep everything appropriate for the age level, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I didn't actually type all of that out. All I did for the instructions was I gave it a basic thing saying, I want you to have a debate with my students. And then I clicked this button here, which was the kind of like the revise button. And the AI took my simple instructions and expanded them into all of this. And it did a really nice job. So now basically what I can do is I can say, okay, awesome. Anytime I want to use this debate coach, I don't have to go to Gemini and start from scratch typing everything in. I can go, oh no, I've already got a gem that's ready to go. I can just come here and say, oh, hey, let's do that debate coach thing. So I can come here and say, hello. And it'll probably say something like, what do you want to debate on? Let's see. Yep, there we go. What's the topic? Should I take the affirmative or negative? What's the age range? And boom, we're ready to go. So basically, all of these really neat, engaging ways of using AI, instead of having to start from scratch every time, you can build a custom gem that has all of the directions and all of the information that it needs, and boom, just fire them up anytime you need them. ChatGPT does a very similar thing. I know John and I were talking about this before the meeting here today, but if I go to ChatGPT, those are called GPTs. So if you go and you click on Explore GPTs, you can see all of these pre-made, chatbots, which are pretty much the same idea. So Google Gems are the same as ChatGPT's GPTs. I think maybe Gems is a cuter name than that, but that's the idea.
Do you think that eventually you'll be able to deploy these in Google Classroom? Is that how they're going to make these student-facing?
So that's a good question. I don't know what the plan is with the gems as far as that goes. Right now, basically, no, it's at the moment you build them and you use them. You'll notice there's not like an option that says, click here to get a link. Whereas with ChatGPT, you can do that. You can create a custom GPT, and then you can give people a link and they can click the link and then they can try out your custom GPT. Gems isn't there yet. I think that's going to be a key component that's going to make it, better when you're able to then push those out. Unfortunately, like I said, heads up, don't forget, at the moment, this is listed as, the paid version of Gemini for schools.
I have a tool that I have been playing around with over the summer. I did a couple of workshops and it's school AI.
Oh,
And
yes.
they call them spaces.
Yes,
And
exactly.
actually, they have some any teachers that are interested in that. The spaces are created for your students to use, and in the same way that you make a gem, you build your prompt in there, and then you have a dashboard where you can see the interactions that your students have with the AI, which is some of those are quite compelling. And for our higher teachers, they have signed the agreement, so it's
Great.
definitely one that you could use. And that if you ever see it again, they offered something over the summer called the Space Camp, and that was an opportunity really to try it and to learn about it. And I did that, and it was very good.
Excellent. Hey, John, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I didn't even think to do that. So I'm just dropping some of those links in there as you were
Okay.
talking. Yes. So for those who are not paying for Gemini, and so you don't have access to gyms, and not only that, but you want your students to be able to use them, which isn't even an option for gyms yet. There's lots of alternatives out there. School AI, Mizu. Let's add some more in here. So Brisk. Teaching has recently added this as a new feature. They have a what they call boosts for students. So Brisk Teaching now has their boost feature where you can build your own custom AI chatbots. Magic School AI has added this as well. And then let me think who else. Phobiz has added this as well. So all 5 of those I know do the ability for you to build your own or pick from a collection of pre-made custom AI chatbots. School AI, Mizu, Brisk, Magic School, and Phobiz. And I guarantee you there's a few others I'm forgetting, but all of those do have that option. And then the students click a link. They then talk to that custom AI. And because these are for educational use, it records everything that the student says and the AI says, so you can monitor the conversations, but it keeps it anonymous on the AI side. So the AI does not retain this information, making it, school safe to be able to use these different tools. So, yeah, those are some great options as other options if you don't have this or the custom GPT option. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. All right, last thing in August, and then we're almost caught up here. So last thing in August, it's another Gemini thing, but this is a really positive one that affects everybody. So notice every single emoji is here. So whether you're using, free Google or paid Google, whatever it is, if you are using a school Google account, Google has now added data protection in Gemini. So if I go and I pull up Gemini on a school account, so here I am on my school account, and it even says it at the top, you can see they're still kind of publicizing it. You now have added data protection, so your data isn't used to train or improve any generative AI models. Now, this is only true if you're using a school account. This is not what happens when I use my personal Gmail account with Gemini. But with the school account, Google has now said, hey, listen, we already offer this kind of protection for everything else you do with your school account. When you sign up for a Google account for your school, the version of Gmail that you get does not have advertisements in it. The things you save in your Google Drive, none of that can be used to, train anything or to, to make a profile of you for advertising purposes. Humans are not allowed to read your emails, things like that. There's all of these things that are just built into the licensing agreement for schools to protect them. Well, Google says, guess what? We're now doing that for Gemini as well. If you're using a school account, what they're saying here is that they will not use anything that gets typed into Gemini to train future models, to share with advertisers, to be reviewed by humans. And so that is just free. That's just included. That is just part of using Gemini with a school account now. So that I think is fantastic. I really appreciate the fact that Google has added that in. It can help schools feel a lot more confident using the Gemini tool with their school accounts. All right. And that brings us to September. So before I hit September, it's our final little stretch here. John, is there anything we've missed? Something else we need to address?
No, I think everybody in the chat was excited for those to learn about those student-facing options other than GEMS.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's do it, folks. Let's hit the final stretch. So in September, Google Forms now has Gemini embedded within it. This, of course, is part of the paid version. So I know you're getting tired of hearing me say that, but let me go ahead and show it to you real quick just so you can see what I mean by that. So if I create a new form here, notice at the top, I have a help me create option here at the top of my form. So I could ask it to help build a particular form for me. Maybe I want to have a quiz, create a 5-question multiple choice quiz on the topic of food webs for a 4th grade science class. And I could hit create. And now Gemini is going to come up with 5 multiple choice questions related to food webs that would be appropriate for grade 4. If I like that, I can click use this form, give it a moment, and there we go. And so now it has built my form for me. Now, can I do this with other tools? Absolutely. I mean, I could use something like Question Well. That one can generate, multiple choice questions, and then it will generate the Google form for you. I could use Conquer for this. Conquer can generate a Google form. I could use Brisk. Brisk can grab any article or YouTube video or website or document, and it can build a Google form quiz for you as well. So again, there are alternatives. If you're like, this looks so cool, I wish I could do that, but we can't afford the paid version. Be aware it does exist, but you don't have to. You can definitely use other tools that are out there. And if you want more details, I'm happy to add those in as well as some of those other tools I just mentioned that will generate quizzes for you. Next up, Google has rolled out some additional training for students on AI. So here's a blog post that explains all about it, but basically it sends you to their new experienceai.org website. So Google has put together in cooperation with Raspberry Pi Foundation, several lessons that are geared towards students aged 11 to 14. And so we can come in here and click on Explore the Lessons. And you'll see it's covering things like what is AI? How do computers learn from data? What about bias in AI? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so each one of these, you can go in, there's videos to watch and activities to do. There are a lot of wonderful resources out there to help teach our students about AI. This is just one more to add to that growing list. I do have, for what it's worth, if anybody wants that full list, I probably still need to keep updating it, but I do have on my AI page, I do have a blog post I did on tools to teach students about AI. So let me see if I can find it quick enough here. Let me see. It's here. It really is. There it is. Free resources to teach your students about AI. There's just too many things now. So this blog post covers a lot of these free resources. Let me go ahead and I'll just add this in to our blog post or to our agenda here. I'll just say, I'll say for more student lessons on AI, and I'll just put the link in there. So that would give you some even additional ones you could explore besides that one. All right, good stuff. We already hit NotebookLM. We had told you that we would do all of those at once. So we already hit that here and there. So that really just means we've got a few things left. Let's see, what do we have? This one, just a quick heads up, there's a new beta that's rolling out to allow you to add additional restrictions on folders when you're doing shared drives. So I just want to be clear what they're talking about here. When you use shared drives in Google Drive, that's where you create a separate drive and people can become members of it and they can have access to things in that shared drive. If they add something to the drive becomes the owner of the files. Okay, so that's not new. We've had that for years and years and years. Here's the new thing. In the past, if you gave somebody permission to a shared drive, whenever you added them to the shared drive, whatever permission you gave them, they got that permission for the entire drive. That's just how it worked. So if I said, hey, I'm going to give John view rights to the shared drive, he can view everything in the shared drive, the whole thing. If I say I'm going to give John edit rights, he can edit everything in the shared drive. Now, you were never allowed to downgrade somebody's abilities, their permissions on specific folders. All you could do is upgrade. I could say, John, I'm giving you view rights to the whole shared drive. And for this one folder, I'm giving you edit rights. You could give them more permissions, not less. Well, finally, Google is saying, we're going to let you give less permissions. So here's the idea. You could have a shared drive and you could give everybody, all your teachers, view access to it. And you could now have subfolders inside of it where you could say, except for this subfolder. For this subfolder, we're not going to give you view rights, or it's going to be view rights. You've got edit rights above this folder. Inside of the folder, you only have view rights. Now, you can do this with a regular Google Drive, your personal drive, but we never could do this with shared drives before. So this is nice. This is a good option to be able to be more granular in your use of a shared drive. So if you've had shared drives and like, oh, I really wish I could use them more, but I've even seen people do this. I've seen them make two shared drives. They make one where everybody can, view and edit and do all this stuff. Then they make another one that's only view because they're like, well, for this one, we don't want them changing things. Well, this will eventually fix that problem. It's a beta right now you can sign up for, but that will provide a lot more flexibility with your use of shared drives. All right, let's see what's up next. Now this one I can't show you, I can't demonstrate it, so I'll just have to show you the picture of it. I do not have access to this yet. And this is Gemini getting added into Classroom. We've seen Gemini in Docs, Gemini in Google Forms, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're starting to see Gemini with the paid add-on get added into Google Classroom. So again, I don't have access to this right now, but I can show you what it's going to look like. Basically, when you go into Google Classroom, there will be a Gemini education section if you, again, have paid for the Gemini add-on. And from that Gemini education section, it's going to have tools to create a lesson plan, generate a quiz, to re-level text, to create a compelling hook. Now, if this looks familiar to you, it's because, yeah, there's a ton of tools that do this already. I mean, that's what Magic School does. That's what, Conmigo does for teachers. That's what Almanac, Twee, EduAid. I mean, there are so many tools that do this kind of thing. Google is now starting to bake those straight into Classroom. So the idea being you could use this to jumpstart a lesson or a quiz. And then because you're already in Classroom, it could just integrate that boom right into the next assignment that you're creating. All right. Let's see what we have here next. This one's kind of small, but it's interesting. Customize your Google Docs with cover images. So let me show you what this means. So let's say I have a document here. Actually, I think I've got one over here that I'll pull over. Yeah, let's just grab this one. So let's say I have a document. And I want to add what they're calling a cover image. Now, a cover image, what that basically means is an image that goes all the way across the page from one side to the other, margin to margin or edge to edge, and creates this, what they're calling a cover image. Now, the only way you can do this is you have to be in pageless mode. So in my regular view, it's not going to work. But if I go to File, Page Setup, and I switch to pageless mode, now that I'm in pageless mode, I can go to Insert, and there's a cover image option. So now I can either upload my own, or I can just pick one. So I can just come in here and just grab one of these images, and there we go. And so now I have this cover image at the top. If I want to get rid of it, I can just click on it and delete it. But as long as I'm happy with it, there we go. So just another way to jazz up your docs if you are in the pageless view on those. And I think the last thing, this is it. This is the final one, because we already talked about NotebookLM. Final update. And then we're going to take a breather and switch into our show and tell and Q&A. Final update. Be Internet Awesome. Okay, so Be Internet Awesome has been around for a long time. This is Google's free curriculum to teach students about being safe online and making good passwords and treating others kindly online. Great content. Well, for what it's worth, they have now teamed up with Roblox, and they have launched Be Internet Awesome World, which is basically a game, an educational game that students can play on Roblox. Roblox, I don't really do much with it, but I know there are many students who use it a lot. They said here that there's 79.5 million daily active users of Roblox. But basically what this is a game that students can play, and it goes through the same curricular content. It covers what you're doing with Be Internet Awesome. It covers those same things. Again, protecting your password and, verifying information online, treating others kindly, etc. So they can play a game while getting that content as well. All right.
Some questions in the chat, Eric.
Okay.
With regards to the cover image, Kathleen wants to know, is that on the first page or added to all the pages?
Good question. It's going to be just the first page, because it says, did I lose my connection?
I can still hear you.
Oh, that's weird. It says trying to connect. That's odd. We just had a blip there. Anyway, that's scary. I hate to see that when that pops up. So short answer is it's only going to be on the first page, because remember, you have to be in the pageless mode. I don't think, do I still have it? Yeah, here it is. So you have to switch into pageless mode. Yeah. So there isn't going to be a page break there. Right. So no, that is only for the pageless mode.
And then there's a question about Be Internet Awesome. And Nancy's asking, I think only on the paid version, I assume. Is she talking about...
Probably Roblox is what you're referring to, because Be Internet Awesome has always been free. You can access that. If we go to the link here, you can go to the Be Internet Awesome website. The curriculum is free. They've even got a game on here. Called
it looks like it's all free.
Yeah, but I don't know if Roblox has a requirement. I apologize. I don't know that. I don't believe Google in any way is charging for this on Roblox. I just don't know if there's then another hurdle you have to get through on Roblox to get to it. My guess is you can use Roblox for free, or you can pay for content if you want additional bells and whistles. But this is
and Lancy says Roblox is free.
Perfect. Well,
so
then
it looks like it's
wonderful.
and I've seen some other examples of this, and there's something that a lot of people perhaps have been looking for good content and finding good content to do digital citizenship for
Yeah.
students, especially the younger students. I was
Yes.
working with a group of second graders, and they all love Roblox, and so they talk about that. So this is the hook to get them in.
There
to
you
then
go.
have that conversation about what is acceptable and not acceptable as far as digital citizenship goes. So another wonderful resource.
That is great. Glad to hear that. All right. So let's do this. That gets us through everything that I chose to highlight for what's new in Google. We're going to pause for a moment. We're going to move into show and tell and Q&A. So let's do a couple of quick things. First of all, a reminder to you, if you have something you want to share with folks, show and tell is a great place to do that. Scroll on down to the section where it says GEG Community Show and Tell, and feel free to add things into there. And same with Q&A. If you've got a question, scroll on down here and you can drop in questions. If you have answers to those questions, you can add those in as well. So we are going to be switching over to those two topics in just a moment. John, did you see anything else that we missed? Is there something from these updates that you wanted to tack on? Anything additional before we move
I just
on?
think it's like a fire hose at this time of the year when we have to go through 3 or 4 months at the same time.
Yeah, I will do my best to not let that happen again. I mean, it always happens in the summer, but we really like to have an August meeting, and I apologize. We just were not able to make it happen this time. So we'll do our best to never let it get quite so far behind.
It's unavoidable over the summer just because we don't have those meetings. I know a lot of people are probably, I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but I think you have to expect that as Google is rolling out some of these updates, obviously, especially the ones that involve artificial intelligence, there is a significant cost that goes into adding those features and rolling them out to millions of users. And so that's the reason that you quickly go from the free version to having to pay for it. I found myself actually paying for ChatGPT in the last couple of months just because I wanted the extra features. So they make the free version is usable to a point, and then they obviously they want to try and find a way to monetize it because they are paying an awful lot for the compute that goes into making all this work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's do this. Let's pop over to show and tell. And I did see, John, you had a few things. So what I'm going to do is in just a minute, I'm going to let you share. And I will say real quick, Stephanie's not with us today, and neither is Sarah. As always, please sign up for Sarah's weekly newsletter. Please join Stephanie's Google group. That's a great way to stay in touch with them. Denny's not with us today either. I don't have a link from him. But John, I'll let you do yours, and then I will pick a few of my selected ones here afterwards. Do you want to take over sharing, or just want me to pop these open for you?
Just pop them open, I think, Eric, because I can kind of talk you through them. Are you familiar with the AI Test Kitchen?
I sure am.
Yeah.
And actually, I may do this on my other account because I know I'm already signed up on my other account. So I will bring that over and you can talk about it. Go ahead.
So I think the big idea about this for people is as you're exploring image generation using AI tools is something that has really come a long way in the last 6 months. And so I went to an AI summit that was in Cambridge, Ohio. We had 4 of these summits that were offered over the last 6 months, and the earlier ones were in May, and then they had one again that was in August that I went to. And this was a workshop that was put on by Rebecca Dwenger from the Hamilton County Educational Service Center. And she had a couple of image tools that she was recommending to people. And this was one that I discovered that I didn't know before. So what I like about it is if you go into it, and they have image, they have video, there's a kind of a suite. And this is very much in the experimental world of Google, I think. But yeah, Eric's just hitting the I'm feeling lucky. And if you remember back in the early days of Google, we had the I'm feeling lucky button. I think it's still there, but it's going to generate an image for us based on, and what you see highlighted in yellow there are, let's call them the changeable elements of the prompt. So the prompt was photogenic, fine dining plate of food. But if Eric wanted to make it a plate of appetizers, for example, he could choose appetizers and then hit create down the bottom there. And yeah, all right, casual, there you go. So you can change all of the variables in there into, oh boy, ugly casual bowl appetite. Yeah, let's see what this looks like. But really, as far as this goes in learning and teaching your students how to use these tools and how prompting works, firstly, it's the idea that you can change one thing and then get completely different results. A lot of the frustrations that go into prompting AI for images is that you don't sometimes easily get exactly what you want. And just looking at those, actually, they don't look that unattractive to me.
Well,
But
I think the best they were doing is making it a little unkempt. I think the
there you
idea
go.
is they're just kind of piled in there. But no, John, I'm with you. This is a great tool that you can use to generate images and just be done with it. But what I love about it is the ability to go in and say, hey, what if we tweak things? So it's encouraging, yeah, it's encouraging creativity. It's encouraging, what if you change this? How does it change the image?
And the workshop that I actually did on that, we also went in and we did the excellent Say What You See
Yes.
Google Arts and Culture activity. So I kind of coupled the two together, and I think I may have mentioned at the end of our meetings earlier in the year before we took our summer hiatus that the Say What You See activity was another good one.
Yes,
so again,
absolutely.
the purpose of that is that you are prompting Google's AI to generate an image, and you're trying to replicate the image that you see on the left as it gets created on the right, and you kind of gamify it. So the whole point of that really is to teach, and my primary audience right now are teachers. I'm teaching them how to use these tools, but you can spend a lot of time generating images and not get exactly the ones that you want. And so having the ability to kind of manipulate the prompt, and then so I've started doing whole sessions on those, and this one is just a really easy one to get you started into generation of images.
Yeah.
And then they've got MusicFX.
Music. Mm-hmm.
And you may be, if you
Video.
want to
Yeah.
show any of those other ones there, Eric,
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with them.
Yeah, and I've used all of these. Yeah, the music effects can generate songs. There's one called text effects. They don't have on this particular page here, but it can generate text to help with writing. Video effects, that one hasn't rolled out yet. I did sign up for the wait list, but it's to create videos. So yeah, that's
Spend
great.
some time playing in some of these things, and then you'll find that it will increase your skills. And then it's a good one to use, especially with students, to have them experiment with that if they have access to it. The second thing that I've got to share then is, and I've been involved in a lot of STEAM and STEM coding, and so one of the things that we were disappointed in the same way that Google sometimes decides to remove features or take away software that we were used to. One of those was that we used to have apps that we could deploy on Chromebooks, and Sphero EDU had an app that would let you then code the Sphero robotic balls using a Chromebook. And so that made it much easier to then deploy in the classroom. And I have a set of 15 of these robots. And so having students use their own devices is much the easiest way to sort of roll that program out. So over the summer, I think it was in about June, they did actually announce that they are beta testing this. And so it allows you to connect to a robot on any web browser, including a Chromebook, and to use the features to write programs that you can then run on that robotic ball. So for those of you that have been waiting for that to come out, it is now available. And we just also got some of the Sphero Plus robotic balls, and there were some issues with the batteries in the older ones. The way that they do the power management, these essentially will, if you don't interact with them over a short period of time, they basically put themselves to sleep and they save the battery. So I'm excited to be playing with these two bits of software this fall as we work with schools and we send out our Sphero robotic balls. So if you have some Spheros and you have been kind of sweating that you didn't have iPads to use to control them, you now have an option that will work on the Chromebooks.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. Well, thanks for sharing that. Awesome.
You are welcome.
Well, wonderful. So I'll go ahead and share my stuff and just give another minute or two if anybody wants to add things to the community show and tell. So obviously I've put out a lot more things than 5 things in the last 4 months. If you head out to my website at Control Alt Achieve, yes, there's, dozens and dozens of things over the last few months, but I picked, I'm just going to pick a couple today because, that you have to do that. So I picked 5 things as far as posts go. I did include, of course, links to my email group, my Facebook group, my email newsletter, all that kind of stuff. And don't forget, I typically do my EdTech links of the week. There's a page that has, all of those. So you can see week after week after week, and these go out in my newsletter and I do a blog post about those there as well. So anyway, let's go ahead though. And let's look at the 5 things I decided that I was going to highlight for you guys. So the first one is I've started to generate certificates for some of my video trainings. This is something I did years ago and then kind of got away from it. I am doing it again now. So I do have a blog post that explains how all of this works. You can follow that. Or if you go to Control Alt Achieve, there's just a webinars tab at the top as well, and that'll get you right to it. So either way, you can either check out the blog post about it or just go to the webinars tab. And basically what it comes down to is anytime I do a training, if it's a training that I'm able to do a recording of, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just something that recording doesn't make sense, or it's a training for a group of people where it just wouldn't be appropriate to share that training. But if it's something that it makes sense, I can record it, I'm able to share it with you guys, that's what I'm putting here. And what you'll notice is for every training, there are 2 different ways to watch it. So if you just want to watch the video, hey, I want to watch Eric's AI Toolbox, best AI tools for schools. Sure. Here's a YouTube link. No, there's no, you just click the link and watch it. You don't have to do anything. It just plays. On the other hand, if you go, actually, I do want to watch this, but I would like to get a certificate. I'd like to get this, 83-minute, proof that I watched this to turn that into my school. That's what the other link is for. So for that, if you click it, it's an Edpuzzle link. Now, Edpuzzle is going to ask you to join an open class. And when you join that open class, it's going to give you that video. You can now play that video. And what's going to happen is once it starts playing, it'll stop right away and say over here on the side, to receive credit, you need to watch this entire video. You can't skip forward. When you get to the very end, you're going to get a link to a Google form that you can fill out. So I obviously won't go through all that right now, but that's the point, is I'm using Edpuzzle because it allows me to require the user to watch the whole video. If you watch it on YouTube, I don't know if you really watched it all. Maybe you skipped forward, maybe you jumped around and you didn't watch all of it. Edpuzzle, I can flip a switch in there, which I have, that says you can't skip forward. You have to watch the whole thing. That allows me to feel confident, or at least comfortable enough to say, okay, here is, your proof that you watched this. So anyway, just wanted to give you a heads up that webinars tab is now available. Please feel free to watch any of these, share with others. That's fine. I will continue to add way more over time. There's going to be tons and tons and tons of videos here. Just as I get time to do more, I will add more to them there. So that's one thing I wanted to share. The next thing I wanted to share is jam slides. Now, I'm going to tell you this. This came about because of our meeting today, because the very first question in the Q&A, somebody put this question in a couple weeks ago, and I saw this question a couple weeks ago. Somebody said, what are people recommending for free Jamboard alternatives? They've tried some things that don't always, fit what they need. So I started scratching my head about this. So whoever put that in, thank you. That's great. I appreciate that. It got me thinking. And so that's where Jam Slides came from. So basically, here is a blog post you can follow the link for. And what I thought was, what about this? What about using Google Slides as a replacement for Jamboard? Now, keep in mind, there are a lot of good options out there, and I put links in here to those. FigJam, Lucid Spark, Miro, Padlet sandboxes, Canva's whiteboard tool. There are loads of tools out there that can be used as an interactive whiteboard. But the question was, things that are free, but also things that are easy to use. And I thought, well, how about Google Slides? Because most schools are probably pretty familiar with slides. If you were using Jamboard, you've already got a Google account, so it's free. You've got access to it. And so I started just poking a stick at it, seeing, could I do everything in slides that I could do in Jamboard? And so I went, button by button by button, trying to see, does it work? Some of the things worked so easy, it was great. Others, it was a bit of a challenge. So when it was done, here's what came out of this. Basically, I created a template. And this is a template that you are absolutely welcome to make a copy of. I'll go ahead and click on it right now and make a copy of it for our example. And what I tried to do was build a template to make easing from Jamboard into Google Slides as easy as possible. There is a 25-minute video that will go into way more detail than I'm going to do. I'm going to do just this itty bitty little quick thing with you, but you can watch this full video. And the blog post explains further down how we can do frames, how we can set the background, how we do sticky notes, how we do all the things, the pen tools, how you did everything in Jamboard, how you can also do it in Google Slides. So basically, here's the idea. When you go into here, you'll notice I have created a template that has these little helpers on the side here. These are meant to replicate a lot of the things that you did in Jamboard. So for example, let's say you were doing sticky notes. Well, there's not a sticky note tool in Google Slides, but we can just use the shape tool. There's a shapes tool that has, different shapes like rectangles. So I made some sticky notes and I made them be the exact same color as what you had in Jamboard. And you could just come in and copy paste or duplicate those, drag them over and type in your text that you need. And there you go. There's your sticky note. And of course you can move it around. You can rotate it. You can make it, bigger or smaller as need be. And yeah, it basically behaves just like a sticky note. And you can make as many of these as you want. So we did sticky notes. What about the background? How in Jamboard you could change the background? Well, under the layout button, I copied over those Jamboard backgrounds. So under the layout option, here is the blue graph, here's the blue lines, here's the dotted background, here's the gray graph. All of those are just in the layout. So you can pick, any of those you want, or you can go to the background button and upload your own image if you want. Other things, what about, inserting shapes or images? Well, down here, or text boxes. I explained, hey, you can just do that yourself. Here's the shapes option. Here's the image upload. Here's the text box option. What I had the hardest time with was the pin. That was the hard thing. And I'll just be honest with you. That's the toughest thing, is replicating the pin in Jamboard. Google Slides does have something kind of like a pin It's called the scribble tool, but it's not exactly the same, but it's close. And so if you were to go and click on the scribble tool, you can basically draw on the screen, and it does. It's like a pen. The problem is a couple of things. One is it's not easy to pick the color and the thickness. You kind of have to draw first, then come here and then say, oh, I want to change the thickness. Oh, I want to change the color. You can do it, but it's a little bit more challenging to be able to do that. Secondly, every time you get done using it, it turns off. So like if I draw with it and then I stop drawing with it, then it's gone. I lose it, and so that's a little bit of a challenge. So here's what the solution ended up being. What I did was I tried to replicate all of the colors and thicknesses of the pens in Jamboard. And the instruction is basically this. Start by clicking on, oh, I want this thin green line. Click it first, then click on the scribble tool, and then it'll draw a thin green line. Or I want this thicker red line. Click it first. That kind of loads up the settings. Then click the scribble tool. And now you have a thicker red line. I want this, thicker blue line. Click that, scribble. Here's the thicker blue line. Or I want this really thick yellow line. Click it, hit the scribble tool. And now we're going to have a really thick one there. And so basically I tried to replicate those with presets over here. Now there's one more cool thing, and I did not include it in the original video because I didn't find out about it till later. So you guys are getting the extra special stuff. So there's something called Sticky Scribble that I'm going to do a follow-up post about at some point to add into this, but you guys can hear about it right now. And that fixes the problem with the scribble tool getting deselected every time you get done using it. Because right now, like I said, if I pick something and I say, hey, I want to do scribble, every time if I wanted to write my name, as soon as I get done with the E, oh, I can't do my cross of the E. I've got to go back up and click on the scribble again and then cross it. And if I want to do the R, you see what's happening here. Every time I click on it, I'm starting over from scratch and I'm losing the settings. That's really frustrating. That's a lot of work. So what this is a free extension. And this is from Clay Smith. Clay is phenomenal. Love Clay to death. He's a great guy. And it's a free extension. I've got it installed. Let me turn it on and show you how good this is. This really fixes this problem. So Sticky Scribble, I've got it turned on. Let's come back here and let's refresh the page. Actually, we'll just go to another tab, another slide. Now that I've got Sticky Scribble turned on, watch what happens. If I say, oh, I want to use this red, and I come up here and I go to Scribble and I start writing my name, when I pick it up, guess what? I don't lose it. I can now keep writing my name. I don't have to keep going back up. And so guess what? It's like a pin now. It actually really works until I go up and deselect it. That is so much better than the way it was before. So Sticky Scribble is the extension that you really, that's the MVP here. Unfortunately, I did not know this existed when I made the blog post and the video. Clay contacted me later and said, hey, this would really help. So I'll do a follow-up and get that. But thanks to Clay for creating that. That should just be the way it works normally, but it doesn't. So, hey, now you have a way around it. So ta-da, there you go. Okay, so that's that one. And then the last three things I have in my show and tell are just a few AI things. So just heads up, I did a blog post on creating educational songs with AI tools. Please check that out if that sounds interesting to you. I talked about how you could use tools like Suno or Udio to write songs and sing them and play them. And so I decided to say, what if I'm a science teacher and I want a song about the water cycle? And so what I did is I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, ChatGPT, can you write me a song about the water cycle? And it did. I copied those lyrics and I went over to Udio, and that's a tool I use, but Suno is great as well. And I gave it the lyrics and I picked the style that I wanted, and it made a 30-second song. And then you just extend it. You go, okay, let me give you the next verse, the next chorus. And you keep extending it until it's all done. And when it was all done, I had a complete finished song. You can watch it up here. You can watch the entire song. So really fun way to make educational songs or to create a song for a student of the week if you want to celebrate a student. So many cool things you can do with that. So there's a whole blog post on that. I also did one on using AI to generate educational maps. So if you've ever used Google My Maps, Google My Maps are a great tool to be able to, let me see if I have an example of what one looks like down here. There we go. So this is what Google My Maps looks like, where you can put pins on the map and you can add content about each of the pins. So Google My Maps is not new. We've had Google My Maps for like forever and ever and ever. And it's a really nice educational tool to create maps. Well, what I realized is Google My Maps allows you to import data for the map. You can import CSV files, comma separated values files. And those CSV files can say, this is the latitude and longitude for where a pin should go. And this is the information for what that pin should represent. And so what I said was, what if we used AI to help with this? And so basically, I said, okay, let's do famous battles of the American Revolutionary War, but you could do maps on just about anything. But basically, I went out to ChatGPT, but you can use Claude or Gemini or any of these. And I said, hey, make a CSV file that I can use with Google My Maps and include the location of the battles, but also include the name of the battle, the start and end date, who was the British and American leaders, what was the cause, what was the result. And it did. It generated a CSV file. I then downloaded the CSV file. I went over to Google My Maps and I clicked the import button. It said, okay, what's your latitude and longitude? What's the title of the markers? And that was it. Boom. It pulled in all the data and it created the whole map for me. Now you can go further and then you can re-edit it. So that was the beginning. I then went in and I changed a few things. Like I changed the colors of some of the icons and I added some images. But it saved me so much time because it built that whole first level of all of these battles of the war with all of this key information. Then I could just go back in and tweak it and share it out with others. So pretty cool. So that's a neat one. And then the last thing I did that I wanted to share anyway was using AI to make educational games. I did a blog post about using Claude for this. If you're not familiar with Claude, Claude is just like ChatGPT or Gemini, but it's from Anthropic. That's the company that makes Claude. And what's cool about Claude is it has something called the artifact window. And the artifact window allows you to tell Claude, hey, I want to make a game that does such and such or whatever, and it lets you actually test it out inside of Claude. You don't have to copy and paste it somewhere else. You can test it right inside of Claude. And then if you like it, you can then publish it from Claude, and anybody who wants to play it can try it. So I put together a video going through step by step how this works. And I ended up creating Spelling Snake. So if you want to try it out, you can click that link and basically you choose the speed of how fast the snake should move. And then you choose what words you're trying to learn how to spell, like fruits. And then basically you're playing the game of snake, but you're trying to eat the letters in the correct order to spell, in this case, kiwi. So I'm spelling out the word kiwi. And now I'm spelling out the word plum. And as I eat the letters, I'm learning how to spell the words, but my snake is getting longer. And if I ever run into my tail or run into the wall, the game will end just like in the regular snake game. So if I end up hitting a wall, boom, game's over. Now, I don't know how to code that, but I was able to talk to Claude and tell it what I wanted. And it was able to build that. I tested it in the artifact window and then I hit publish and now anybody can play the game. So watch that video if you want more details on that. So there you go. So those are my things. There's a lot more on the site, but those are some things that I wanted to highlight for you guys. It does look like under the community show and tell, we had a shout out to NotebookLM, which we already talked about. But then we do have a link to some EdTech shorts. And these, I believe, are from Dan Neeson up at NeoNet. Thank you, Dan, for sharing these. So it looks like he is putting together a collection of short videos related to EdTech that people can take advantage of. So that's great. I appreciate you sharing that, Dan. All right. Well, John, we're down to our last few minutes. And
Well,
so
we have some questions in the chat, Eric.
Okay, go ahead and give me those, and then we'll look at our Q&A here.
Okay, Nancy is asking, can we have students use these AI tools, or are AI tools for age 13 and up?
So the short answer to that's going to be, it's going to depend. Every AI tool is going to be unique. I would say the general answer has been 13 and above most of the time. So things like ChatGPT, Gemini on a personal account, things like that. Where it's different is tools like the one John mentioned earlier. He talked about school AI. There are tools that are very careful about COPPA, FERPA, GDPR. There are tools that allow students to use AI in a school safe monitored environment. So something like school AI, students do not sign into the tool. They do not give their email address, nothing like that. You sign up, you give your email address, you create the custom chatbots, but then the students just click a link to chat with it. They don't, give their personal information. And then when they're chatting with the AI, it keeps a record for you. So you can see everything the student typed and everything the AI responded, but it doesn't let the AI keep its own copy. So when they're talking, when it's interacting with the AI is not allowed to use that data to train on. It's not allowed to keep a copy of it for, future use and things like that. Now, it's still up to your school to approve that tool. But what I'm saying is we are fortunate. Things like Conmigo would be another good example, Magic School. There are tools out there that are trying to find creative ways to allow younger students to use AI in a school-safe, monitored manner. So that would be my quick answer to that.
And then we've got Shannon said, I saw a message on the Suno page that said there were copyright issues being investigated. Anyone else experienced that?
I have not. So I'm not sure, Shannon, about that. I do know that both Suno and Udio have been under fire, as many AI companies are, with questions on how did you train, the model that you've got? Did you train this on copywritten songs? Or if it's ChatGPT, did you train it on copywritten, text? Those things are still being figured out in the courts. So I do know that's something that they are working through. I do know those tools sometimes will also flag it if you try to get them to replicate copywritten material. So, for example, I know with Suno, you can upload audio and say, take this audio and make a new song that's based off of it. And if that audio you're uploading is flagged as being copywritten, it'll yell at you. So there's a lot of possibilities, but no, unfortunately, personally, I have not seen that pop up yet. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's finish with our questions and answers. This is our Q&A. This is the last spot. I know we already discussed Jamboard. Here's my Jam Slides tutorial that we talked about. Other people, though, have mentioned things like Concept Board, thanks, and Padlet, thanks. That's great. I appreciate those suggestions there. Somebody asked, what about Chrome's reading mode? And, is there, have you heard about when read aloud is coming to that? So it is available right now. You can do that, but you have to turn it on yourself specifically. So here's the idea. When you go to, let's just grab, an article. So let's say I'm a student and I'm reading this article here about the little temporary mini moon that we're getting this weekend as that asteroid comes close to us. Well, if I come up here and click on the reading mode button in the top right corner of the Chrome browser, basically what it does is it gives me this section over here where I can get the same content, but in a cleaned up version. I can say, hey, let's make the font a little bigger. Let's, change the color here so I can, read it easier. Let's, spread the lines out. Let's spread the letters out. All of those kind of things. That is something we've had for a while. That's not new. None of that is new. That's pretty normal. We've had that for probably about a year or so. What the question is what about the read aloud feature? Well, if you look up here, you'll see I actually have that feature. So if I come up here and I click on the little play button,
Earth will capture a temporary mini moon this weekend.
It'll start reading this aloud. So Google's been talking about that coming forever and ever and ever. I don't know when everybody's going to get it automatically, what version of Chrome it's just going to be turned on. At the moment, if you want the read aloud feature, what you need to do is you need to go to your Chrome flags. Now, don't get scared. It's not a complicated thing. Basically, it's Chrome://flags. If you go to Chrome flags, this will show you all of the behind the scenes settings you can tweak in Chrome. And what you would do is you would just type in read aloud at the top. So it finds just the flags related to read aloud. And I've already got them turned on, but it's things like this. I want read aloud turned on. So I put it to enabled. I want it to highlight words. I want it to be able to switch voices. I want to be able to add other voices. I turned all of those on. Really, all you have to turn on is the first one, but I turned on the others to play around with them as well. And once you do that, it'll then ask you to restart Chrome. So once you do that and hit save, Chrome will reload, and then you're good to go. At that point, anytime you click on the reading mode option, you'll then have this option here.
September 27th. 2020,
where it can read that aloud for you. All right. Good stuff. And then let's see, what was our other question? Sorry, I'm very slow on this one. This is my fault. When will the videos from the June HEIST conference be posted? Yes, if you attended our conference in June, the High Impact Conference for Educators, we do have some videos that were recorded, probably about 25 videos, maybe a few more, somewhere around that range, 25 or 30. Yes, those are going to be posted so you can watch them and get, PD hours for them. I have been working through those. Matt said they're coming soon. Yes, and again, apologies, I'm the holdup. It just takes a really long time to get through all those videos and get them processed properly. In the next few weeks, yes, those will get posted onto the conference website, and you'll be able to watch the ones you missed and get PD hours for those. So coming soon. And then lastly, looks like somebody asked about some Canva support. So thank you for John for adding in some details on that. And then somebody says, looking for newsletter templates for administrators or specialists to use, would like some options for others to see to promote creativity. Hey, if somebody has some to add in there, please do. I think that would be fantastic. I would encourage people to drop links in here. If you do a newsletter template, docs or slides, like as an example, I know, let me see which one I could pull up here really quick for you guys as an example. I know I did a blog post recently where I shared some of my favorite newsletters that I receive. And I believe in that I included, let me see if I can find it fast enough here. There we go. Excellent EdTech newsletters. I included, for example, the one from Jake Boll. He's from CISA 5, and he does a slideshow. And so this is basically what his newsletter looks like, his Tech Tip Tuesday newsletter. So I think that's what you're saying is like, do you have templates for things like this? So if people do have, if you do something like that, whether it's a slideshow or whether it's a Google Doc, please feel free to drop some links in here as examples for this person who would like to see those. Well, folks, my gosh, that is going to have to do it. I think we, that was a long one, but we did it. We got through everything. So as we start to wrap up, a couple of quick things. First of all, just thank you. Thank you so much for taking 2 hours out of your day to join us live or watch this later. I really appreciate it. I want to remind you, if you did not sign in, page 2 has the sign in form. That way I can send you your hours afterwards for having watched this this meeting. And other than that, yes, stay connected. Stay plugged in through our email group. I hope to see you at some of the upcoming events. And do check out our next meeting. Remember, if you go to the GEG Ohio website, you'll see the agenda, or the calendar of events. Looks like October 30th is our plan. Always double check, but at the moment, I believe October 30th is our plan for our next meeting, and you can see the rest of them after that. John, anything you have to add as we wrap up here today?
No, thanks everybody for, we had 45 people while watching the stream live, and we will have lots more that connect. Make sure that you watch your email, and if you can respond to questions in the Google group, then by all means share your knowledge with the other educators. Looking forward to seeing you in October.
Awesome. Again, thanks so much, everybody. Take care.